Welcome to Behind the Magic, where we meet the creators that bring the magic to your screens. Amanda from Once Upon a Marathon joins us today to discuss how Josh D'Amaro won Disney's top job. Hello, Disney family. Today you are in for a absolute treat. You all know Amanda. She has been here many times before, but today is very special. As you know, I am obsessed with Amanda's content. She is known for lots of things. Amanda does these very thoughtful deep dives not only into Run Disney, but also Disney business. She has marathon training guides, and she has an incredible community around running through the Disney parks. If you ever check out her page, especially throughout a race, you see people tagging her and she's showing all the goodness from Run Disney. But she also covers the business side of Disney. She breaks down their strategies, decisions, and the behind the scenes dynamics that shape the company we love. And I am very excited for you all to hear her insights and perspective. And if you are watching this, you're probably going to see my eyeballs popping out because I will be hanging on to every word that she is saying. You can find Amanda at Once Upon a Marathon on Instagram. And do you also have a website?
Onceuponamarathon.com.
Okay, perfect. You can also find her there, and that's also where she sells her running guides, which I have actually purchased for the Princess Run, and they are very, very, very useful because they remind you to do things like even change your shoes. So today we are going to be diving in to some recent changes to the Disney company, the Walt Disney Company, as we now know we have a new CEO.
We do. New CEO finally, after much speculation.
It's been a long time coming. I feel bad for Iger because he probably is like, "Get me out of here."
Oh my god, he had the boat built, the yacht. He was ready. He was out. He thought he was gonna sail into the sunset. He got
And
called
he
back.
sailed right back into port
Yep.
and extended, and so now he's out of theirs. You know, you're known for doing these deep dives for our listeners. So, can you tell people, like, how big of a moment the CEO transition is, especially with everything that's happened, is it really since the pandemic?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Iger
Which was
left. He
6
was
years
gonna
ago.
be, yeah, 6 years ago. His original tenure was gonna end in 2020-ish. But, like, he ended up leaving early, in part because of all the friction with Chapek taking over. Like, that transition was really rough, and he made the decision that, and this is me spiral and speculating and reading all of the things, but he basically called it and was saying, "If my presence here is making this worse, I'm just gonna exit the situation." And, like, a month later, pandemic hit.
He was not. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. So why was there friction, especially because wouldn't Bob Iger have been the person who picked his successor?
So, technically, the successor is chosen by the board,
Okay.
not the CEO.
Okay.
Although that being said, the CEO's opinion matters quite a bit. He's the only person that has on the job experience, quite literally, right? Nobody knows the job better than the person doing it. And he's a beloved CEO. So, I mean, when you look at history's greats, he's going to go down as that. He's widely regarded as having executed deals no one else could have done. He bought Pixar, the Lucasfilms merger, the 21st Century Fox mergers, the share price increases over time. And he did all of this kind of while becoming a celebrity CEO. And I don't mean that in the fact that he acts or is famous or came in famous, but he is so known for his business moves that even people outside the business world know who he is. And that's kind of a crossover level of notoriety and fame that you don't see often. You see it more nowadays with like the tech giants, but
Yeah.
he's predates all of that.
Yeah. He really does. I mean, now you say that because I like watching those masterclass things, and he's had one on there like forever. So that's very true. He's so well regarded. Okay. So that makes sense. So going back to the Chepik, before we dive into like what's happening now, I feel like we need to revisit the Chepik era. So before becoming CEO, what was Bob Chapek's like trajectory? Like, what did he do so that people know?
Yeah. So the vibe with Chapek is he was kind of the last man standing. And I mean, that sounds awful to put it that way, but it kind of is. Iger was making moves, he was leading the company, and there was a lot of points when he should have retired, considered retiring, had planned to retire. Like there was a lot of rumors going around, and you would kind of be waiting for it and be like, actually, let's go open another park. Actually, let's go buy Pixar. Actually, let's go buy Lucasfilms. Like there was always some next big thing that he oversaw. And there were people who seemed to be kind of groomed for the successor role and then left. Tom Staggs is famously one of them. But Chapek had been around the whole time. He was at the company, I think, for 30 plus years and had moved up in the company, had worked with Iger in all of that time. He
So he had
came
Disney grown.
he
So,
was, yeah.
okay.
And he was from more of the kind of product merchandising entertainment side of the house. So he did, if you remember the direct to TV era of like, was it Cinderella 2, Cinderella 3, Little Mermaid 2? In my mind, these don't
Which
exist. Like, they're
which
not canon to me.
they're not well, I do I mean, Little Mermaid 2 is a very deep
No, it doesn't
DVD.
exist. I don't like, no, none of it exists. None of it exists in my
Those
mind.
are those are the ones that I secretly love Little Mermaid 2. Or is it does Little Mermaid have 2 or 3? I can't remember. Where's the one where her daughter she has a daughter and she's called to the sea? Little Mermaid
It's
2?
true. But also,
Girl,
that's she's the only princess with a child.
that is actually kind of bizarre. And let me tell you, Ariel looks tired. In Little, in Little there is a reason because she looks tired because her daughter keeps saying that she feels called to the sea and they built that seawall so she couldn't cross it. But
Well,
but
you have Chapek to thank for all of that. He
I
also the Disney Vault, that was him as well.
you know what? But I'm mad at him for that because that is so annoying. You would because I was also in the do you remember the Disney Movie Club? Do you, where you get the DVD every month. I paid the monthly membership because if you had that monthly membership, when it came out of the vault, it was the movie. So you never missed it. So I
Oh.
I pay. I actually was sad when it ended, but it was like streaming has taken over. You
I was
don't
gonna say, you know how much money you
oh,
forked over just to then have a subscription to the
you have no I mean,
streaming?
I'm pretty sure this was one of the last ones, which
Right.
if you're listening, I have Planes, Fire, and Rescue, which is unopened because I found it at my parents' house over Christmas. But
You
this is
need
from that era.
no, you need to watch that because that's Piston Peak, the
Piston
new
Pete.
that's where they're adding to Magic Kingdom. They drew heavily from or were
See,
largely inspired by that. So look, it all comes back
so
full circle.
thank
It
you,
all comes
Bob
back.
Chapek, for that because you took all of my money only for it to go online.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
So
yeah, well, so he was known for making a lot of money.
yes. Good job. Walt Disney Company is actually a company I know a lot of us don't like to hear that.
Yes, yes. But he had that was where he was coming from, is kind of the marketing strategy, that side of the house. And then they actually put him because he needed the park exposure. There came a point where very clearly Iger's gonna retire. And he was going to retire before the 21st Century Fox acquisition. He talks about this in his book, Iger does. And he was gonna retire. He was considering potentially a second career after retirement. He was going to run for president. Is his
What?
he seriously considered putting running, and it would have been in 2016. And
Oh my
he had done
gosh.
a lot of research on it, a lot of like what it would take to go into it, his considerations for it. And Rupert Murdoch called him to his house and said, basically, I'm considering selling everything in my empire, with the exception of Fox News and a couple other outlets, but for the most part, the bulk of everything. And they had the conversation about the purchase for it. They talked through the whole drama, everything that led up to it. But one of the big sticking points to this was if Disney acquired 21st, Iger had to stick around for at least 2 years to oversee the transition and the sale and the acquisition and the merger of all of this, which meant foregoing any other plans.
What?
And I will say that like he considered it. I in the book he talks about like it never really
Yeah.
went beyond that initial
But
consideration.
still, it's
His
even the
wife was not on
consideration.
board necessarily. His wife was like, absolutely not. Like What is this? And then very quickly, like, this opportunity came forth for the business, and it was like, well, that's that then, But there was an initial consideration there for a
I
presidential.
mean, I honestly would have supported, that ticket because I do feel like there's a level of being CEO is a delicate balance of a company like Disney because you have to think about customer experience, still the nostalgia, bringing joy, and make money.
And
And
there's
that's
the
a very
international experience. I mean,
yes,
he's negotiated with how many foreign governments?
exact I mean, he built a whole park, different
I
country.
know.
Like, I just well, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
I know. It's different. I feel like if you're into Marvel, the whole like alternative universe, the
Yeah,
timeline. So like there's a
yeah.
timeline somewhere.
Somewhere where Bob Iger is president, and I need to find that timeline and snap
I know,
myself to
right?
it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
Um,
where did Bob Chapek start losing confidence? Like
so
from like the board or whoever? Like I can't
yeah,
even now remember because the pandemic was so traumatic since I had a baby during it that I'm like, where was where did things start slipping?
coming out of the fog. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's interesting because, and I might be reading too much into this, but Iger talks a lot in his book, about how, in many ways, unfair the process was for him to become CEO. There was
Oh,
a lot of drama around it. There was a
okay.
lot of kind of he ill will, like, you read it and you get angry on his behalf.
Oh.
Like, you're
Uh,
just like, "Are you serious?" Like, I'd be a little more bitter about this. It's all water under the bridge, but there was a lot going on with Eisner at the time. This is like, if you've heard of the book Disney Wars, which where they kind of forced Eisner out, and there was a lot of drama there. And Iger's process, like, he talks about it, how grueling it was. There was a point where he almost broke and he like snapped at people in the boardroom. And it got to that point. I think that left a mark on him. I think the fact that he dedicates an entire chapter, if not more, in his book talking about that process and how grueling it was and kind of what he went through and how it really wasn't the norm, even. I think that all these years later, when he's looking to pick his successor, I think there was a part of him that was like, I don't want to put the next guy through what
through
I
that.
went through.
Okay. He
And
wanted it to be smoother for him.
I think he wanted better for the next
Yeah.
guy. And I
Yeah.
think that on paper, this guy was the right option. I mean, he'd been there for
Yeah.
30 years. They had moved him into a parks role to be the head of all the parks so he could have that park experience. Like, just, I think it seemed fine.
Yeah.
And then after the succession was announced, after this person's involved, there's typically a transition period where you have Iger, everybody knows the next guy is going to be the next guy, right? But there's like it's like a 1 year where Iger was going to move to the board and so be part of the board and an advisory and position, like a transition plan is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. And it went completely sideways. And very rarely do you see these kind of leaks to the press, but there was an entire expose. I forget what journal it was published in, but it was talking about like what went wrong and how badly it went wrong. And it's detailed. Like, it's talking about how there was a meeting. It was on the East Coast, and they're like in the executive jet to go to it. And Iger's like, "Okay, you're going to be presenting at this meeting because you're gonna be the next CEO." And Chapek's like, "What do you mean it's me?" And felt like he was getting set up. And Iger's like, "Well, I'm here. Like, ask me all the questions. Like, let me prep you." And he was like, "No, I'm gonna go to that plane and read my notes on my own." And it just like was a shift, and then it got worse and worse, and Iger had opinions like he's not just it got to the point that like at the retirement party, Chapek was like not gonna come at one point. Like, it was very, very
Really?
and that disruption between the two of them leaked into the company itself. There were camps of people,
Yeah.
loyalists to each
Yeah.
side, but clearly Iger is leaving and he's retiring. So at some point, Iger says, "This is unsustainable and it's causing more damage than good. I'm just going to walk. I'm going to go ahead and call it early and leave."
Which
This
is so
is,
unfortunate because you need that guidance from someone who
but it was clear that
uh,
Chapek didn't want the guidance. Is
yeah.
kind of the that was part of the problem. Is Chapek is like, this is mine now. You need to let go. And
Never a good sign.
it went very sideways. And then On top of that, there was a lot in flux. Like Disney was just entering the streaming situation. So the Disney Plus had been announced and that needed to get up and going, but wasn't quite there yet, but was going to launch soon. Then, I mean, nobody knew that the pandemic was going to happen, but I think like a month or so after Iger walked away, the pandemic happened. And that caused a lot of press because people were like, did you hear the early rumors of this virus or the COVID, realize it was going to be a big thing, and then like leave them out to dry? Did you leave early on purpose? Is it related to the pandemic? Like, what impact did that happen?
What intel did you have from the Shanghai park?
So at this point, like that's kind of people are like, did you set them up to fail? Kind of thing. And there's a lot of like back and forth against, when you're reading into all these leaks from different camps and different things like that. It was clearly a contentious situation. And Iger doesn't publicly comment very often on it, but like there was a couple rare public comments around leadership and difficult times and things like that. Piggybacking off of that, you have Chapek, who comes in immediately, makes a lot of dramatic changes. And so internally, there's a lot of frustration with him. One of the things he did is he took power from all of the entertainment side of the house. So you have your Kevin Feige's, you have the people who are running Marvel, all of that. He basically said, all of you don't have the power of the purse anymore. You have to come through my guys to get anything greenlit or to get anything happening. So creative decisions were kind of being made by not creatives. And there
No.
was this move to push content and to be like, we've got to get content on streaming. You have to force this and push this through.
My
He
gosh.
also he put a right-hand man in charge of all of this who didn't seemingly have a ton of experience. That guy was like one of the first to go when Iger came back. And he restructured all of Disney. Disney reorged, like to the point that you're filing SEC stuff over the reorg because it changes how you report your quarterly financials. It changes like loan structures. Like he completely reorged Disney
He
structurally,
is the one that
legally.
ruined Marvel.
So a
Oh
lot
my gosh.
of when you
I feel
talk
like a
about
light bulb just went.
So when you talk about like the early days of streaming, when they talk about the streaming wars, the whole point of the streaming wars was there's going to be eventually some streaming platform's going to win, right? Who's going to win is probably going to be whoever has the greatest market share. So there was this belief that it doesn't matter if the company is losing money or that division is losing money as long as it's gaining subscribers. And Disney's trying to walk in and capture a massive market share against giants like Netflix, right? Right when the pandemic hit, Wall Street's like, "Woo, we about to go into some stuff here. Actually, money matters. So if you're not clearing dollar bills, we're not going to value the same anymore." So they walked in with the strategy for acquisition of customers being the primary target, and then had to pivot into how do we get this as profitable as we can immediately. And that ultimately is what I think cost Chapek the job. Is the whole coup that ousted him?
Yeah.
It happened over streaming numbers and him kind of fudging the numbers a bit.
I
Fudging
mean,
is a word, but
but
kind of.
I just am like, Disney easily could have unvault. Maybe he was too stuck in the vault. If they would have just unvaulted everything, if
So
they, I
yeah,
feel like, especially during the pandemic when we were all like needing something to hold on to a little more, if he would have, now DuckTales and stuff is on there, but
yeah,
it
now
wasn't in 2020. I'm like, he could have unvaulted all of that and we all would have been glued to Disney during the pandemic.
I, especially when people were looking for nostalgia and comfort
We
and kind
needed it.
of the familiar place. He was trying to push the new content. There was now a structure where the creatives aren't making the call. And Iger actually talked about this when he came back the second time around. And he said what happened is the few creatives that were high up, like the heads of the studios, were stretched so thin because they had to push out so much content that they were not allowed to give the attention needed for the editing and cutting process. Like they weren't being as judicious as they normally would from a storytelling perspective. It was kind of a quantity over quality situation.
Which is not
Then
Disney's MO for so many of us.
But Chapek kind of like his whole background was merchandising, pushing the numbers, pushing like it was. I know we have concerns about a lot of the rising costs with Disney with Josh D'Amaro as the head of parks, but a lot of that Josh D'Amaro's boss was Chapek. So Chapek was the person calling the shots on that as well. So one of the big questions about Josh is how much of those rising
Is
costs and
yeah.
changes in the park were him? How much of it was pandemic decision making in general? How much of it was because Iger didn't really reverse much when he came back either. But also Iger had a lot of other problems to solve. So how much of it was we're just going to park this here because we need the revenue stream and we'll fix all of our other problems and come
And
back.
at that time, I mean, isn't that when like Josh became president of the parks or something? And he would probably is like, I let me fix everything else and like this kid's got it. Like he can handle the parks. I don't care. You know what I mean? I need to like get our company back.
Exactly. There was so much going on. And that's just the streaming side. And streaming, the reason I'm focusing on it is I don't know that people realize that the biggest challenge facing Disney is what's called the linear transition, which is how do you go from the old network stuff like ABC, CBS, like what we think of as like cable television into the streaming world. And there's a lot of nuances and things there where the government regulates and grants licenses for the old stuff and linear programming. Streaming, that's a private platform. You can do whatever you want. And there's a lot of advantage for new companies like Netflix because they're not dealing with regulation and government. They don't have that piece to their
Yeah.
business. And
Because
that,
because
yeah,
they weren't on
they weren't there.
TNT or whatever
Yeah.
channels originally. So everything they have is new
All net new.
anyways. It's not and that now that you said that, I wouldn't have even thought about that being an issue. So maybe that's why Little Mermaid 2 wasn't streaming.
Well, it's not just that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just like owning the IP.
Yeah.
It's when you look at media in this country, there's kind of like a couple big giants, media giants, and almost always they're associated with a publicly, and I say public as in like it's technically the government that's regulating this, but ABC, NBC, CBS, those are
Yeah.
the three big. Each one of those has a massive media house behind it. Disney owns ABC, Paramount Universal owns, I think, NBC,
Yeah.
and then Peacock is the other one. So basically, two of the three have the theme park divisions behind them, but they all like there's a huge flywheel here of making stories and contents, owning the platform that those stories and contents goes onto, and then having a park to then reinvent it, right? And that's not by accident. It's because there's only these three stations really and like PBS is technically its own thing, but these three main ones and the government regulates to the FCC what's on them. And if the government decides that what you're doing is not in the best interest of the public, they can pull your license, they can pull your ability to do it. And that's $1 billion of revenue gone overnight. So you have these media giants where massive amounts of their company, at one point, like 89% of their income, now it's like 20, 30% of their income, billions and billions of dollars is tied to this regulated thing. They want to get off that and they want to be on streaming. They know that the thing that they're tied to is dying, right? People are cutting the cord. The problem is it's still billions of dollars. They can't just overnight lose billions of
Yeah. I
dollars.
mean, it's almost like they have to wait for an entire generation to basically die out
Right.
because
So
they're
they're
still
now
using it. Yeah.
in a thing where they need to continue to bring in this money, but it's harder to bring in money because the advertisers care less about paying a premium to be on your cable channel, right? But you don't make the same money you make on streaming. Like even if they put everything over to streaming tomorrow, streaming wouldn't generate the income. It wouldn't generate the money
Not
that
giving us choices. Like, that's the downside is having a choice. You also have a choice not to watch it.
yeah.
Where when
And
we were growing up, you just turned on the TV and you were watching what was on.
yeah, it's there, and it's a very challenging problem. This is the same problem that Universal. I call it Universal because that's the park, but I think technically it's what is it? Is it Paramount University?
Yeah, something like that.
I care about people who run Epic Universe. I
Yeah.
know, like I should know it more. Disney. It's funny to me because Disney keeps the name Disney as their main one. Universal doesn't. It's like a combined. Is it Comcast Universal? I
Comcast.
think it's
Oh,
Comcast.
I think it is Comcast. Is it
Yeah,
Comcast Universal?
Comcast Universal, and they
Okay.
own NBC. But
That
they own NBC. So Comcast is to what Disney is for ABC. Like they're both media giants. They both have access to one of three avenues of delivery. They were the big ones. Like your local network affiliates are their own thing, but all through
Yes.
license deals. And so like this money is like it's drying up.
Yeah.
And figuring out that business transition is very difficult. It's one of the reasons why Iger was like, we have to embrace technology. We have to go into
Yeah.
streaming and we have to come in hard with it. That was his
Yeah.
vision for it.
Okay.
And Chapek, I think, was seen as a very good candidate for like, here's a guy who, through every era of technology, like, he figured out how to create the direct
Adjust.
DVD. He figured
Yeah.
out how to create the vault. He figured out like when we went from was it VHS into the
Yeah.
DVD and the Blu-ray era,
Yeah.
he was the guy that solved these problems. So I think that there was a lot of feelings towards we've got someone in-house with the institutional knowledge. We have someone who's probably very well equipped to handle this next iteration of technology change while handling and balancing the numbers on it. Yes, the parks are important, but we've given him some park experience and he's got this young kid named Josh right there at the parks as well to help him out. And so, like on paper, it makes a lot of
The
sense. It
choice
makes a
makes
lot of
sense
sense.
when you break it down like that. It does, absolutely. The biggest challenge that Disney was facing was streaming, and so why wouldn't you bring the person who's been bringing entertainment right into your homes?
I exactly. And then he got in charge. He changed the entire structure of the company. He pulled a lot of power out of the studios. He quantity over quality became a thing. The pandemic hit with the parks. So that impacted this massive segment of the business. Then in addition to that, people just didn't like him. Uh,
Yeah.
they straight up didn't like him. It's hard because I think that anybody was going to have a hard time being under Iger's shadow. He seemed to take it a little bit more personally. Like he wanted to,
There there
get me.
obviously was some, like, animosity because it felt
Yeah.
like he took it more personally.
There was a lot of, yeah, I don't know, there's men and their egos. But
Yeah.
I think that in general, it was a rough transition for him. And then the fans didn't like him either. And that became a bigger and bigger issue. And it got to be more and more problematic for him. Then, very publicly, he had several missteps just from like a comms perspective. Whatever you think Disney should or shouldn't do, the debacle over the Don't Say Gay bill with DeSantis, like that fumble was so hard it cost them the special district and Reedy River Creek. Nobody would have predicted that.
No. No.
Um, and it just kept going and kept going, and people were not happy, but
Yeah.
the numbers were doing well. The stock was rising. The thing that he was supposed to do, he was doing, right?
Yeah.
Shareholder values going up, all of that. And then the big they actually gave him a 2-year extension with millions of dollars in a buyout clause should he not get to serve it, which so he got paid like a ton of money
I was about to say, didn't Disney end up losing, like, so much money over
because they had to pay out his contract. Yeah.
Oh. Ugh.
Um, but the thing that did it is there was a quarterly earnings call. The CFO at the time was very concerned about specifically the streaming losses and how much money we were losing. Because the money loss, I want to say, was like in the billions. It was a big number.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And some of it was expected, but some of it wasn't. But the big thing with his ousting is there was a quarterly earnings call, and I'm trying to remember because this is like going way back in the memory here. But there was, when I say fudge the numbers, it's not like they were doing anything illegal. It was all perfectly
Yeah.
above board. But there's an interesting thing with streaming and movies where like you put a lot of money into a movie, if it bombs, instead of writing it off on the studio, you can be like, well, actually, this was for streaming and it's a loss on streaming, or vice versa.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, we were going to do this for. So I think what happened, now that I'm thinking about it, is like the losses seemed better than they were because they would put the loss on the studio and say, oh, we changed our mind to put it on streaming. So now it's just like the
Okay.
expenses are on one side of the house, but
Yes.
do you get what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
And it has to do with like
They were
reporting
moving
structure.
the numbers to
Like this is all again from my memory, so I might
yeah.
have some of the finer details wrong, and
Yeah.
we only know so much about the accounting.
Exactly, yeah.
But the whole point was the CFO is like, this is actually very concerning, and you're walking in like nothing's wrong. And this isn't a matter of projecting confidence. This is, it will catch up.
Yeah.
This is gonna, the reason why I'm making a point of saying all of this is because she is the one that like walked out of that meeting, literally called all of the other higher ups in the company and was like, if Chapek was gone, yay, nay to the board. And the board's like, yeah, we don't have the confidence. This is something's wrong. She
Wow.
goes, and they're like, but what can we do? There's no one else. And she goes, there's Iger. I am calling him. She called him. And literally that decision was made in like 8 hours. Like they walked out of the boardroom, out of the quarterly ordering call, fire drill, went to Iger and was like, are you willing to do this? He accepted in that moment and literally started work on Monday. Like it was that
Insane.
fast, that
Insane.
fast. And he did do, I forget what it was, but he talked about like, it just never occurred to him that this would ever happen. And it was a moment where the CFO at the time had texted and was like, can I call you?
Wow.
And for some reason, his wife, I think Willow, was like, what if it's to ask you back? Or maybe he got the inkling. And he was like, I'm retired. Like, this is done. And she's like, if they ask, you have to say yes. Like,
Yes.
this is, you know? And there was a discussion there. And again, it's a very like poignant moment where he's like, I realize I'm going to have to make this call and I'm going to have to make this call like now
Yes.
out of nowhere. And he did, and he came back, but it was over streaming. Like he got this, like Chapek had this massive deal and he got paid out for all of it. And then they brought back Iger, which had to like sting just a little bit given the
Oh,
friction and
yes. I
the
mean, that
problems
had
prior.
to hurt no matter how much money you got paid out at the end. That had to hurt, especially that like they called Iger to come back out of retirement.
And to be fair, there would be no one else in that short of a
No.
notice that had
Yeah.
the knowledge,
Yeah.
the expertise. Like, even if you got some other CEO that was
Yeah.
fully competent,
It
the
wouldn't.
amount of onboarding
Yeah.
and
And
like
the
things to learn.
parks were still closed at that time too. We were still so they're losing money on their parks. They're probably like bleeding everywhere because it's like streaming isn't
Yeah.
going. The parks are closed.
Disneyland was closed. I think Walt Disney World opened up in some capacity, like after a couple months. It
I
wasn't,
think it was only closed for 4.5 months because
yeah, yeah,
I started thinking like we weren't going to get back to because dramatic Disney mom fashion. And I was like, baby's not going to go before she's one, which is so ridiculous considering it was like a pandemic. But we went with her after we got COVID, and we were still wearing masks when we
yeah.
went. So yeah, I mean Iger, he was man for the job. So clearly he came in because
So
he
he
was
came in.
coming to fix. What was his
Yep.
original timeline? I forgot. Do you
So
know?
his original timeline was 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
And he came in and is like, I'm going to right the house, right the ship, fix the house. And he immediately out the gate was like, Chapek had done this massive reorg of the company. And he was like, yep, we're going to undo a lot of that. But the problem is the world has changed. We can't just hit the undo button and go to the structure that was before. He knows that whatever he reorgs to, this is actually the future of the company, even beyond him, because you can't reorg again, and then have the next CEO do a third reorg. Like
Yeah.
that's like too much.
Yeah.
So he made the decision to break the company into three parts.
Okay.
There is the parks and experiences division. So this is what you think of with like the Disney parks, the cruise lines, Adventures by Disney, the storybook living that they started.
Yes.
All of that is one division. The next is all of, I think of it as it's Disney entertainment. It's anything that like drives IP. So Marvel, the movies, Pixar,
Pixar.
television shows, all of that. That's the entertainment. And then the third division was sports.
Okay.
ESPN got
ESPN.
its own thing.
Yeah.
And people were very, very like side eyeing that because it's like, well, did you carve it out as its own thing so you could sell it off? Because sports are the last remaining thing on linear television. Like when you watch cable or subscribe to something that's on cable, what is it for? It's for live sports.
It literally is. That's the only thing I think we pay for outside of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So
okay.
there was a big question of what is this signaling? What does this mean? Since that time, Iger's come back and like he really likes the hand he has, is the way he puts it. He's like, I like the cards we have for sports and live entertainment. because nobody else has like ESPN just has such strong brand recognition. There's a streaming platform. There's an opportunity to integrate it with Disney Plus. They integrated Hulu into Disney Plus. So I think the fears of spilling it off are gone away. But at the time, it's like a very big move
Yeah.
uh, in that conversation. So, but
So that
he set
made
it up.
a lot of sense, though. Like, now you think about it, I mean, it really did make sense to separate all of those things.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And the structure prior to that was the one that had been around probably for decades. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know how long it had been
That had been there.
organized.
Yeah. It
But
probably
that's part
needed
of it.
a redo because obviously in our generation, I think we've had the most significant change in technology and entertainment and the way that
100%.
we experience things. I mean, when we were kids, if your family went to Disney more than once ever, it was like, "What?" Like, people didn't treat parks the way they do, cruises the way they do, or anything like they do now. Entertainment and movies are so different because now it's like, is it financially worth going to the movies to see Zootopia 2? Or do I just wait till it's on the streaming platform? Because, like, for me, taking 6 people is $200 to the movies. So I have to decide, is it actually worth it? So I understand dedicating that specifically. And then I like sports, but I am a yay sports kind of person where my husband is like, must buy MLB package, must buy whatever the football package. Like, we're buying like every package
We are too.
individually, you know? And
It adds
so,
up to it's so expensive too. Like the NFL Red
oh,
Zone and then the MLB
it's so
thing.
expensive.
Like it is not the $20 a month. It is.
No, it's absolutely not. So, like, separating the company into that actually makes so much sense because I look
Mhm.
at those experiences totally different as
Yeah,
well. So that's okay. Great future thinking. Okay, Iger, that's why you're back. That's why you're back.
that's why
So,
he's back and that's what he's
okay. So,
doing.
what were his next steps? Like, what was he doing?
So those were the big moves that he had to make, and I mean, pretty quickly, it was like, listen, I'm going to need more than 2 years to do all of this
Yeah.
and pick the next guy. All right, we're
Yeah.
going to have to
Yeah.
extend this, and they did. They extended it, but they know that like Harvard is going to write articles on this. It's going to go into business schools what a failure this succession was. And it's
Yes.
going to be such a wild ride because you're going to have one of the greatest ever CEOs with one of the most famous failures of succession in the same dude.
It will be studied. It, it will
It
be
will be
studied.
studied. It's already, right? So, one, we've got to get this right the second time around. Two, Iger wants his own legacy to like go well. And he's kind of had this it's getting to the point where you're like, all right, so you were supposed to like retire back in 2000, then in 2005, and then in 2010, and then in 2015, and then you finally do it in 2020, but then it actually doesn't work out and you pop back in.
Spectacular failure.
So, like, are you gonna retire?
Yeah.
Like, how is this working? And he
And the whole
wants to.
time
I
he
mean,
has to have it in the back of it. Everyone knows that there was a CEO race. Everyone who was,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like, so that has to be so weird for anyone who's C-suite that potentially could rise to the top because like he is literally only here to fix the company.
he's here to fix the company. And in the midst of all of this, by the way, he's got to figure out who the next person's going to be. They took it super seriously. The board actually brought in a third party to
Oh,
vet
okay.
candidates, put a process in place, put it like they
Okay.
took it super, super seriously. And it was a long vetting process. So that happened. But also, and this is going to be a whole side tangent that's not even super relevant anymore. But then there was the activist investors and the attack on Disney
Oh
from
my
the
gosh.
market side point. Do you remember all of that?
Yes, because I was glued to your story. That
What
was a
was like,
fabulous
what was it? It
coverage,
was,
by the way.
well, I think it's because it had pop culture like
It
crossover because it was
did,
like
but
the Beckham's father-in-law. Is it Romeo Beckham
yes. Oh my
with
gosh. And
Nicola? It's like her
didn't he
father-in-law
like,
is the one that's suing,
yes.
or not
And
suing,
didn't he
like
like keep
trying to
buying
do.
shares like nonstop and
He's gathering up enough shares to be a major shareholder, and he was demanding a seat at the board because if you can be on the
yes.
board, because the
Yeah.
CEO answers to the board. That's the CEO's boss. The board can fire you, obviously. Chapek is an example of that. And he was demanding seats at the board. All of that drama was happening. He was in on it and being funded along with the guy that originally owned Marvel that Iger had bought it all off of to begin
I
with. And that
remember.
was one of the famous deals that Iger did is like he convinced this guy to sell him this collection for Marvel. And then like all this time later, this guy is unhappy and trying to
Yes, and trying do you still have this saved in stories?
it's
Surely.
in my archives somewhere because it was
In your
truly
high
wild.
do you have a highlight on it? I felt like you put a did you make it a highlight?
I think I made it a highlight at one point in time, but it's hard to keep up because, like, at the same time, these people were funding DeSantis and the Reedy Creek stuff. And then you had the
Yeah.
First Amendment lawsuits that Iger ended up filing. And then you had, in the midst of all of those things, like, yeah, all of
No
that was
wonder
connected.
Iger looks like he's aged so much. This was so
But
much
he
stuff.
had to handle all of this. There was all of this political stuff going on, all of this shareholder business, corporate stuff going on. And then there was also, I have to like
I mean,
provide
it's
entertainment in a parks.
yeah.
And he's always said that everything starts with the original story, the IP, because if you don't have a good story, then you can't really put it into the parks, you can't really put it into merchandise. Like everything comes back to you have to have a high quality movie, a high quality show. Like you have to bring it back to that creative heart. Like in his mind, Disney ultimately is a company of creative storytellers. It's not a park company, it's not a TV company, or like it is creative storytellers because that's what drives everything else. So, and that had kind of they lost, I think, a lot of talent under Chapek. The lack of creative oversight got decimated. So you have this kind of delayed effect where all of these things are put in the work and take years to do. So you have the couple years under Chapek where all of this stuff is happening. Even if you pivot the day that Iger walks through the door, it's not going to show up for 3, 4 years down the road because that's how long it takes to get out to the market. So he had a big job
That I
for
mean,
sure.
that's huge. I can't believe that they actually thought 2 years would be enough.
I know,
Like,
right? I
now
was
when you think
like,
about it, you're like, "What a joke." He knew he wasn't only signing on for 2 years. He absolutely knew that there was no way that this was gonna be undone in 2 years.
there's a
So
lot that's going to be done. But he did. I think I mean, just think about it. The company where it is today is way more stable,
oh,
way
for
more
sure,
calm than
for
it
sure.
was,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
prior
and the
for sure.
quality, I mean, personally, like, looking just even from, like, the Loki seasons and the new show Wonder Man, like, you feel the quality coming back. Like,
Yep.
we are Marvel junkies, like, my husband and I started when we started dating, we never missed a Marvel movie in theaters, and then as we had kids so, like, people would be like, "Oh, aren't they violent? Like, you're letting your kids watch?" And I'm like, "Well, we know it's rooted in fantasy, and it's part of our origin story." So so
It's
so our
important to their
it is.
development,
So
yeah.
our family goes and watches Marvel movies because it's part of our core origin story, even when they were little, because
I
we
love
had
that.
never missed a movie. And I will never forget being so upset with my husband because I was out of town and Ragnarok came out and he was like, I had to go. And I was like, it's like having an affair. Like, I'm not sure I can forgive you.
The betrayal, like,
The betrayal was huge, but it was literally I think it was, like, gonna leave theaters, and we hadn't had a chance, and he was like, "I can't not see it in the theaters," and I was like, I think this is grounds for divorce, like, this is
yeah.
grounds." But that's how Marvel, like, we are, and so when the shows started popping out and they were, like, not good quality.
So not only that, I don't know if you remember all the drama with Scarlett Johansson and Black
Oh,
Widow and Chapek's
yes.
fumbling of that.
Like,
I
it
mean, it's
was
the talent, it's the storytelling, the talent. It was people summarized that he was too much of a numbers guy and he didn't understand relationships. And that's really what kind of drove all of the downfall is he didn't have the relationships with talent, the relationship with the storytellers, the
yeah,
relationship with the
yeah,
creatives. And because of that, he was trying to move something in spreadsheets that the magic happens in the relationship, the collaboration at the people. And
yes.
he was trying to put that in a spreadsheet and it
Which
just wasn't going to work.
I mean, I just we'll talk about, the current, but I'm like, this is why parks people make sense because they have to feel the experience that the guest feels. Like they get to, which is why everyone had a picture with Mario. But before we get to him, Let's talk about the CEO race. So obviously, this entire time, we know
Mhm.
that there is a CEO race for the
Yeah,
4 however
see
many
ya.
years, because that was the whole prior like, he needed to fix the company, but he also needed to actually retire because he
And
was
hand
supposed
it
to retire
off.
15 years ago. So, get the 4 candidates that people are thinking that it's gonna be, because it's still, was it ever outwardly said until the last 2, or was it like these are the 4 people we're looking at? Because I remember, like, at one point I thought, like, Jeff Vale's name was in the running, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
were those
You
all
in the beginning, they brought in third party people who had experience doing successful transitions. And I think in the beginning, everything was on the table to include an external candidate, like a non
okay.
Nizzy person.
Yeah,
And it was the no stone unturned
type
approach.
thing, okay.
It's gonna be all of it. Then as we got closer to the end of the race, you could just tell by the way, like, Josh Tomorrow would have a Bloomberg expose right next to Dana would have a Bloomberg expose, and I'm like, "Oh, they're obviously testing the response to this. Like, which one's landing better? What is this?" And like, they're absolutely right. And also intentionally, I'm sure they're kind of like very few opportunities to kind of like float the idea and see how it goes,
Yeah, yeah,
before actually committing. But long story short, it kind of came down to 4 people, but really 2. So, I told you how there's 3 divisions. Of those 3 divisions, you have Josh Tomorrow, who's over the parks and the
yeah,
entertainment.
yeah,
He was one of them and ended up getting selected, but he was one of the guys. The next division, the entertainment, was actually co-chaired by 2 people. One was Alan Bergman, and he handled all of the movies, and then was Dana Walden. She handled all of the TV. And then the third person that was in the running was the head of ESPN. So
okay.
basically, after all
It
of it
it was the
vetted,
4
it's the
heads.
people of the head of the
Okay.
pillars. Those were the ones that came down.
That makes sense. For those who, I actually didn't realize that they were the 4 pillars of the
They were the
company.
4 people.
So,
It's a little
okay.
confusing because there's 3 pillars, but then you had the
Those 4
co-chairs.
people, yeah, but
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, so, and very quickly, it looked like it was between Josh and Dana.
Very quickly, because ESPN guy, he's good, but like he's the sports guy. He doesn't really have the other areas. And then when it came to the entertainment side of the house, Alan Bergman's been around for a very long time. Like he's probably looking at retirement himself in the next 5 to 10 years, if not sooner. And Dana, she's an up and coming, I say up and coming as if she doesn't have a 30-year long career,
Yeah,
but she's new to Disney. She got
yeah,
acquired with Fox. So when
okay.
21st Century Fox was
Oh,
purchased in
okay.
2019, she came
She
over
came
because
with the
her entire
purchase.
career was, yes, she came with the purchase.
Oh, that's how she got there. Okay, I was wondering. Okay, that makes sense.
She's a top executive at Fox, and she was known for being really, really good, not just with talent, but like across the board. And she has tons of Emmys under her belt. She has tons of like experience. Like she's great. But she came in, Fox was acquired in 2019 is when the deal closed. And then Iger left, I think, early 2020 or whatever, before the pandemic really like got bad. So she came in, she's only been at this company at the time of the race, 3, 4 years. She's been under 2 CEOs in that short period of time. She has, and her exposure to Disney is under
It's
those
not.
2 different CEOs. So she doesn't have a lot of institutional knowledge
Yeah,
to her.
yeah,
And yet I think that she's just that impressive
okay.
that she fought for it and she got to the final round. My take on it is when you look at it on paper, you have Josh Tomorrow, and it's something like, I hate quoting numbers because off the top of my head, I'm like, I'm going to be wrong. A massive amount of employees ladder up to him. It's like 80%.
Oh,
And
okay.
he, at the time, as the head of the entertainment, and it's because he has everybody from like the janitor in the park and the college program kids all the way up to executives that are running the Disney Cruise Line industry. And he has an exposure of the cruise lines, the parks, that like he has international experience because it includes like Shanghai and Japan. So like he has all of that. And his division, I think, drives like 60% of revenue. So he's on paper looking real good, but I think Disney's a little shy about being good on paper.
Yeah, yeah, they are, they
And then you look at the entertainment and you have this person who's really, really good. She has exposure outside of Disney as well. So she's kind of seen lots of different things. And ultimately, the biggest threat to Disney is this linear transition. So if she can crack the code on that, if she can help lead the quality and the transition of IP from linear into streaming, that's going to be solving one of the biggest threats.
Because she did, like, an awesome job in her division, right? Like, wasn't she just,
Yeah.
like, amazing?
Yeah. She's really, really good. Really,
Okay.
really.
So that definitely is why, but the Disney grown thing is hard.
It's very, very hard. And I think that had she been at Disney 10, 15 years and had been given the opportunity to have parks experience, because keep in mind, she didn't even run her own division. She didn't like,
Yeah.
I was shocked when like a couple days ago she posted an Instagram photo and it was Iger touring Pixar Studios saying goodbye. She also got a promotion in all of this, and she's the head of all of entertainment now, right?
Okay.
And she was like, his last day is my first time ever seeing this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you were in the running for CEO and you never saw the Pixar studio. You
Like,
were
that's
co chair of this
crazy.
department. You didn't like go see your other co chair for lunch. You didn't
But
like walk in, get a
that's
tour.
where you're just
Like,
like, you can't be CEO. You need to have touched every single piece of Disney. Like,
an exposure to it or an
yes.
understanding of it. Or, and I'm like, and maybe I'm reading too harshly into that, but I'm like, I like, this is your own division, and I get that you had co-chairs, but I would think that you're working closely enough with your co-chair that you're at least familiar with the studio. You've gotten a tour at
Yes.
least once. Like,
But
you're
this
one of
is
the
your
highest people in
first
Disney.
time there. Like, that just sounds wild. I mean, and I think too, when you compare to Justin Mario, which when he got announced, did you feel like the Disney people that you follow? Because I don't follow like a ton of Disney people, but I was like, oh, it looks like I'm the only person who has never seen this man and gotten a picture with him. I was like,
He's
that's how
everywhere.
visible he was to guests. I mean, it was like from international parks to Disneyland, Walt Disney World to the cruise ships, like everyone had a picture with them. And I was
Everybody.
like, this man's
It's
everywhere.
no, I know. I've never seen him in person, but my friends all have, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
of course.
And just to, there's also stories, right? So I had a, what was it? Somebody had DM'd me and it was like, I saw him in the park once and they had had like a 20-minute conversation and she had described something and he was like, you know what, send me an email about that. And she did. And he followed up and like put her in contact with somebody. And this is just like a regular person. This isn't, and there's so
Jeez.
many stories of similar things. There was another story that came out where he was in the parks, and this was with like Dana and I think other executives. Because in the story, there's a reaction from Dana. She's like surprised and kind of impressed by it. And again, this is all stories and reporting, but he's in the parks and he notices a child that has lost its parent. And he goes and he gets the kid and he helps the kid find his mom and dad in the parks.
Can you imagine?
Like he's just like, nope,
Like,
this is like right now, this has to
yeah,
happen. Like,
we're
because
gonna
he
take
sees
care of
it.
this.
And he's
And
clearly
yeah,
there for like corporate purposes and like he's got a job to do, but he sees it happening and instead of just saying, oh, here's a cast member, they'll help you, or oh, whatever, he's just like, all right, let's go find mom and dad. This is what we're doing right now.
I just,
And that was like, he has that understanding. He also gave an interview where he was talking about how he thinks it's so important to walk the parks because he's like, you cannot understand or do your job well if
yeah,
you don't understand what the job is. And
yes,
he's like, it's these people. And if you're not walking, you're not talking.
you don't.
He's like, I just don't think you can do it. And he's made sense. The announcement, he's like, I'm going to continue to show up in the parks. He's like, I'm sure there's some people probably not super happy about that because, the biggest boss showing up unannounced, walking around. But it's like, it's not a surprise inspection. It's just to him, he feels like it's important to get that feel for what's
Yeah.
going on.
Which I
So
feel like that is very much an Iger, an Eisner thing, which when you talk CEOs and you talk about the popular ones, like those are the like those are the names you hear, the people who understand, the people who want to experience the magic they're providing. Because
yeah,
the park people are also watching the movies and the shows and buying the merch.
100%. Yep.
So if you don't
It was
understand that, you're not going to understand the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah. It's interesting how closely related. Like the story has to be good, but the parks are where people live the story. That's really where they get to live and experience it. And that's where it like grows and becomes not just a story I see on TV, but it becomes like part of my story and my
Yeah,
childhood, my life,
yeah,
and my kids' life, and my family's life. And that's it's one of the cool things about Disney, but it's also like it's a lot to get right.
yeah.
Um, and it's
It has to be hard because I think about Disney a lot, and I'm like, they not only want the people like really like you and me who 5% of our salary is dedicated to Disney at this point, but it's also the once in a lifetime people, you know? Cuz
yeah,
every once in a lifetime person from a family, if they have 3 kids and they go to Disney once, but then those 3 kids are like, "Oh, we gotta get the kids to Disney too." And they all
yeah.
go once, that's 3 more families, and then their 3 kids, and that's what keeps those people going. And then you have the people like us who latched on to Disney, and I was a Disney kid, so I went frequently as a child, and then now I'm raising Disney kids, and I'm pretty sure I know some people are like, "Oh, only 2 out of whatever turn into Disney kids," but our we do Disney so differently that I think we're gonna be a 4 out of 4.
So I
So,
think you will get for it's interesting. So I did not grow up as a Disney kid. I fell in love with Disney as an adult, and it was a race. It was a
see?
Run Disney race. I went to do the
Yeah.
half marathon and was like, "Oh my god, this is incredible." And it's funny to me because Disney adults has its own very negative connotation. And
That's
I was
because people
at
don't understand joy, but I digress.
oh, oh my gosh, yes. I was at a meal and these people did not know I was a Disney adult. And there was like 30 minutes of just bashing Disney and Disney adults and like I cannot understand this ever and all of this other things. And by the end of the conversation, I kind of like subtly turned it around. Um, through things like someone was like, "I can't understand why you would have your bachelorette party at Disney." And I was like, "Okay, well, so if you're a female, being able to drink in an area that's secured, like no place is ever fully safe, but you can walk around at night. You have transportation home into a like there's a lot of value to be had there." And then I was talking more and more and it's like the thing that frustrates me is whenever someone's like, "Oh, I would hate to go to Disney. Like, why? I would rather go to the real Paris. Like, just drop me off in real, Europe or wherever." And I'm like, First of all, no one's in Epcot thinking they're actually in Paris or
No,
that this
no,
is France. No one's
no.
thinking that.
Like,
But
no
second
one.
of all, I can tell that like you travel alone because one of the appeals of Disney is that you can go with a small child and their needs will be met. You can go with a grandparent that has mobility issues and their needs will be met. You can go with somebody who has an allergy and the needs will be met. You can go and like rides or not like rides, whatever it is. And not only that, but you don't have to do a lot of additional planning for logistics and getting everyone through everywhere. It's just kind of like an easy vacation. And I
It is.
know I'm speaking to someone who has an entire like Instagram page dedicated to how to make it easy, but compared
Literally.
to international travel, like, with small kids and adults, like, yeah.
Like, even you talking right now, I'm thinking about the last time that we took the kids to Paris, and I was like, "Well, when you go to Paris," which I actually loathe Paris. I only go to Paris so I can go to Disneyland Paris. I am a South of France kinda girl. So, we Nikki Beach, Nice, like, all of those places, that's where I like to be if I'm going over to France, but I loathe Paris, and I immediately was like, hotel rooms are tiny and cramped. So then I have to Airbnb. Then I have to practice my French because I have to have enough French to be able to navigate to get to the tourist stuff so that my family can experience the tourist stuff. Because if we stayed at Airbnb for more room, then at least we have room, but I have to be close to a train station. So I have to navigate that. On top of that, if I'm taking them during the summer, I have to anticipate if there is a heat wave. Will they survive? Because in Paris, they do not have air conditioning in most of the homes. And so, do I have an Airbnb that states that they will bring in an air conditioning unit? Obviously, just in speaking, I am a well versed international traveler because I'm an immigrant child. So, we spent my whole life traveling to different countries. But as an American who never had been out of the country, and it's like, I just want to go to Paris, you probably are not thinking all of those logistical steps
No,
in
you're
another
not.
language on top of that. So,
Yeah.
like, it is not It is not the same. The ease of a
It's
Disney
not the same.
vacation, like, people make it so complicated, it gives me a space to be like, "Let me make it less complicated for you because
Yeah.
you have overcomplicated Walt Disney
This
World
yeah.
because of the abundance of stuff to do."
And honestly, the less time you're stressed out and spending on the logistics and all of this, especially if you're that person for the family doing all of this, the more time you can actually spend bonding and enjoying your time with your family.
Yes, yes,
Like, the trade-off is enormous
it
here.
is
So,
enormous.
like, of course, people love having a walkable place with,
Yes.
all of these things available to people.
With
Well,
all the
it
food and
is.
entertainment,
All
it
the food.
is, literally, the bubble is amazing, and then if you branch out, like, we're just starting I know you've been on a couple of cruises,
Mhm.
and, we're just really starting to get in the cruises because 'cause they're just a more expensive vacation when
They
you're
are.
a family of 6 especially, because we have to always have 2 rooms, but, like, we've been on the Wish, we're about to head out on the Dream in a month, and then we have the Destiny booked, and,
You're gonna love it. Oh my
I'm
god. You're
is
it's a
it
marble
amazing?
boat. It's a
I'm getting
marble
chills
boat.
just even, like, hearing it because I also heard too that, we're one of the Galactic Star Cruiser families, and it was a transformative experience,
Like, it
and
left its mark.
it
Left its mark.
literally was a transformative experience, and from my friends who got to do the Galactic Star Cruiser and did the Destiny, they said that there's so many elements that they took from the storytelling experience there, because in my eyes, Disney will never they will never have another experience like that, um, which makes me so sad because if you could truly experience that but people were like, "It's on the Destiny, don't worry, there's pieces on the Destiny," so I'm excited to experience that because you just did it, didn't you? Not that long ago.
So I did Destiny Cruise. We
Yes,
just did it
yes.
in March, we did it in January, so, like, 2
So
months ago.
oh,
Loved it. I've
cool.
done the Wish. I haven't done the Treasure.
Yeah,
I've done the Dream, the Fantasy, the Wish, and now the Destiny. Destiny is
yeah,
my favorite thus
okay,
far. It's just, like, you're gonna get it, and you're gonna understand this because 'cause you're a
okay,
Marvel person. So,
yes.
first of all, the atrium is Wakanda.
Oh gosh,
Beautiful color
yeah,
themes, all of that.
can't.
But you know how on the Wish it's princess themed
Yeah,
and there's a lot of very soft, like,
yeah.
"Oh, when you wish upon a star," and you'll, like, go through the atrium and the fairy godmother's there and there's all the little children and it's like, "Okay, I need you to, think of your greatest wish and your greatest heart's desire, and then we're all gonna sing and, like, wave your wands," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
That's very much the wish.
It's very much the wish. So on the Destiny, I'm like walking through the atrium and you still have all the kids,
Yeah,
seated on the floor, but Loki's sprawled on his throne, making them write a song of adoration to them. And they're singing in chorus, "We love you, Loki. You are the best." And like, because he's just taken over and needs his adoring fans.
that
So
is
it's like
amazing.
completely different vibe.
Oh, I love
Still
it.
kid activities, but hilarious and so much fun. There was also a lot more interactive elements, which I did hear came from the
Yeah,
Galactic Star Cruiser.
okay.
So we did the Corella Deville
Oh,
uh,
yes.
piano bar where she comes in and she's all angry, and then like there's these two characters that kind of help provide a general thread of
Yeah.
storytelling, and they come in and they're like they do a interactive, you create a song and then sing it together for her when she comes back in, which I think is from the bar on the Galactic
Yes,
Cruiser.
it
There was like a lounge
is.
singer, so they brought that element in, and there's a couple other very similar things that they've brought in and transformed to it. The live entertainment, like you have Dr. Facilier doing the magic tricks, but you also have just so many other cool things going on and happening. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
That is
My
amazing.
only complaint is it's out of Fort Lauderdale. I don't wanna go that far down south, like, put it in Cape Canaveral, but,
Yeah,
like, that's my
yeah.
only complaint. Yeah.
That makes sense. I can't wait. It's next May. It is expensive, but I know it will be absolutely worth it. And, I feel like it's one step closer to the Galactic Star Cruiser, and I do think it's possible to have the Galactic Star Cruiser at sea completely.
Yeah, well, it was meant to be a cruise-like experience, that was the
Yeah.
whole point.
And I don't think that they marketed that well, you know what I mean? To the cruise community because
They did an awful job explaining what the Galactic Star Cruiser
that
was.
marketing was horrendous. Like,
It
it
was
was
awful.
horrendous.
It was
And,
also
I had so many people after watching my family on it go, "If I would have known that this is what that was, after watching your family? Because that was one of the only real times where really documented everything in the moment. Because usually I'm like putting things back like on later, but because it was you were so involved in the story, it felt like me just telling you like, "Oh my gosh, okay, now we're doing this." Like it didn't feel like I was like documenting like for content because I was like giving you the raw emotions. But I'm like, I bet and people would go. I mean, now that, like, you've had people who've experienced a Star Cruiser, but if you made a Star Wars kinda themed ship that had, like, this element, the way that Star Wars and regular cruisers would go on it, I
So
think
can I share my like pet theory? Like
yes.
my speculating spiral. This is totally out of nowhere, by the way. This is not coming from anything other than like wishful thinking. So we have the three new Wish class ships. You have the Wish, you have the Treasure, you have the Dream.
Yes.
Wish is very much Disney Princess.
Yes.
Treasure is like adventure and kind of some of the other Disney IP. And then you have the Destiny, which is very much a Marvel ship. There's other IP in there, right? Like the Destiny's Marvel, but it also has
Yeah.
traditional villains and
Yeah.
things like that.
But
It's
the fact
heroes
there
and
were villains and stuff, yeah.
but it's heroes and villains, but like the atrium is Marvel and all
Marvel,
of this.
yeah.
So they got rid of Star Wars Day at Sea when they brought the Galactic Cruiser into play.
Mm,
And then the Galactic Cruiser was sold very much like a cruise, but on land, right? It's an immersive. You're in this, like, it's like you're on a ship, but in a
but they
building
kept calling it a hotel, which threw off people.
because it's not a hotel.
Yes.
Then they announced one of the things they announced at, I think it was the last D23, is they're expanding the fleet. And they've ordered another Wish class ship. And then they've ordered three more, what will likely be smaller class ships based on like the orders and what we can see online.
Yeah.
No idea what the smaller ships will do. But I feel like they will put a lot of Star Wars IP on the fourth ship and they'll bring back a Star Wars Day at Sea. And that Star Wars Day at Sea will have a lot of the stuff from the Galactic Star
Yeah,
Cruiser.
I mean
And then from there, they'll have the princess ship for the young kids. They'll have the treasure for the Disney nostalgic people. They have the heroes and villains, which is really Marvel. And then they'll have Star Wars. And between that, they'll have checked most of the major IP. Pixar is, they
Pixar's
have
a little
Pixar
bit
days
everywhere with the
kind of,
kids clubs and stuff, I feel like, but
yeah, it's like sprinkled in. But yeah.
yeah.
So
I just
that's my like
oh,
pet theory.
you have no idea. I would be on that ship, and the thing about it is we aren't even it's not like we were like a Star Wars family. Like, people are always like, "Well, y'all are big Star Wars fan." No, we are Star Wars fans. Like, we were Star Wars fans. So, like, we would watch the shows, like, we knew the characters, but we weren't spending Saturday doing Star Wars marathons. It wasn't until I was like, "Well, you know what? If we're paying this much to go on the Galactic Star Cruiser, everyone needs to enjoy and know the IP." And then I made the mistake. I watched it in order with my kids, and this is the first time my kids saw it. I thought that we would watch one movie a week leading up to the 9 weeks of the Galactic Star Cruiser. We finished it in a weekend, and the betrayal my kids still feel from Anakin, I think I scarred them. I honestly do. Like, every time they see Darth Vader, they're like, "I just can't believe Anakin would do this." Like, they are so
Oh,
scarred because the way that they loved Anakin, where if they would have seen Darth Vader first, they would have just been like, "Oh, this is how he got there." But they watched, so they are
yep.
traumatized. But it was going on the Galactic Star Cruiser that made us Star Wars people.
Yeah.
Like
I believe
that
that.
like,
Yeah.
now we are Star Wars people. Now we'll sit down and just watch random reruns of Star Wars because of the Galactic Star Cruiser, because, the immersiveness of making you feel like part of the story, I have never felt that before. Because there got to a point where my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, "Why are we running? Like, we know this is fake." Like, the kids are so involved, yes, but why are we running in this hall? Like, we gotta get Chewy out. Like, it just because you just felt like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in side of this story, and we do like the First Order is watching us, and we have to be careful because we knew our one of our daughters was in the engineering room trying to help Chewie escape in the back, so we were distracting the First Order by I mean, I was just like, well, I am a grown adult. I am a grown, I am a whole adult. Why am I getting wrapped up in it? But that's just how like amazing it was. So,
People got tattoos of
oh, of the
the
halcyon sign?
symbol.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yep.
surprised. I mean, I'll watch videos and I'll still tear up and I'll just be like, I will never get to experience magic like that. So I'm hoping on the Destiny when I experience the little elements of it, I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh my
It's
gosh.
bringing it back.
Well, I
But
like your
I could
theory and I
This
hope
is my
that it
theory
comes to
with Star
fruition.
Wars. Especially because, like, Marvel went into a slump, but Star Wars took off with, like, Mandalorian and
Yes.
Grogu and all
Yes.
of that. So
And
I would
literally
yeah.
one day or 2 days of the cruise being Star Wars, so you can go through like that
Yeah.
storytelling experience. That's not, because I did wish that the Galactic Star Cruiser was one more day and one more day of no story because I was so exhausted from being in the story. I wanted a day just to explore the building. And you
Yeah.
didn't get
And
that. You had to get off. So I was like, if I would have had that extra day, I would have just explored the building and relaxed because the story was exhausting being in it.
I know we're, like, going way off
I
tangent
know.
here, but in my mind, you're gonna have, like, call it a 4 or 5-day cruise, right? And what would happen is on the first couple days, you have a couple small interactions. So kinda like how Dr. Facilier is now or the way Corella comes in, you will get recruited during these smaller interactions. And then on the Star Wars day at sea, you wake up and somebody's like on the stateroom or there's a message in your stateroom or something like that. And that's when the immersion starts. So you have like these little moments that are cueing and setting things up.
Yeah.
And then you have your Star Wars day at sea. You
Oh,
experience that. And that's your day at sea,
yeah.
right? And then at the end of it, you do some show on the deck, right? And you're firing the cannons and the fireworks or whatever. It ends, and then you have the next day, which is like ending the cruise, last day of the cruise, what have you. And
Oh
that would allow
my
you to
gosh.
kind of like cruise like normal, but then on that Star Wars day at sea, have that immersive experience that's like
Yeah.
queued up throughout it. Just put
Um,
me in.
Disney
Like,
Disney
I'm in.
Disney creatives. Her name is Amanda. It's Once Upon a Marathon. If you're listening, if anyone knows any Disney creators, please send them this podcast and tell them to scroll and
So
listen to the section and
I
contact her.
want for in the parks while we're on Star Wars, I want them because the Galactic Star Cruiser is already connected, and I know it's offices. Just let me dream.
I
I
can't
want
even
them
oh my gosh, that hurts my heart
to
even saying it.
I want them to build out, you know how in a Mandalorian, the armor and the whole Mandalorians, they kind of live underground or in bunkers and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes.
I want to have an avenue where you can go to the Mando section of Star Wars and you meet the armor and you could have an experience where you make your own family crest or they'll allow you to, right? And that would be, you know how you make the droids or you can do the lightsaber, but for there you could go to the armors, what's it called? It's not the kiln. It's the
Yeah,
big fire, the
I know
never
what you're
ending
talking
fire.
about, but
Yeah.
oh
And
my
you meet
god.
the armor and you have the ability and you get like you pick it and they could just laser engrave it or something and then you would and you could have a whole section of the Mandalorians and the different stuff going on in there. And they already have the bounty hunter game, so you could be a Mando bounty hunter starting in the Mando section and then coming back into the regular Batu section. Like, listen, I've got this. Like, there's a vision.
Charge $1.99 a person. I'm already paying it for Bibbidi Boppity Boutique and it's only 30 minutes.
Well, so that's the other thing is you could it would be a Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique. I know they allow boys and girls, but it's very much a princess girl
It is.
driven thing.
But
I
can
think
you
you could have a Star
imagine?
Wars one
Oh
where
my
you
god.
could choose, like, are you going to be a Jedi? Are you going to be a Mandalorian? Are you going to be, you know what I mean? And you could
Do
have to like,
you
if
know
you're a
how many
Jedi, you go
parents
get
would pay
your
for this experience? I mean, we pay 200 and something dollars for lightsabers, and that experience is 60 minutes.
so you could have like a similar thing. Like, are you going to be a Jedi and do the lightsaber? Or are you going to be a Mandalorian and get your armor, like your first piece of armor? And you have to do a mission to get your armor because you have to like earn it. And then you could even like add a layer in there to help, like, I mean, obviously you'd pre-purchase it ahead of time, but like you could have a interaction that
Yes.
would help like it.
Well, Bippity, you don't you just schedule the appointment and you go in and there's 4 packages. So you can spend the $99 or the $300 package because
There you
it, and honestly, if you go in without sound mind, you end up spending on the most expensive. Like that's
go.
why you
Without
have to,
sound mind, if you
yeah,
walk in,
because you get caught up in the moment and you just see the dresses and you're like, whatever you want. So
all of it, babe,
you're
everything
like,
you
take
want.
it all. So yeah, so I mean, oh my gosh. And it's already in the this is Disney.
And it's already connected. You already have the
Yes.
pathway between the two
Yes.
of it, and the building goes underground,
It
so
goes
you could put
underground,
in
and so it's, like,
the
perfect.
experiences.
It literally
Works rain or
easily
shine.
could be great.
I'm telling you.
Just turn the cafeteria into quick service so people can also eat too, and then
There
that's
you go.
another money-making thing because that's an additional cost to go eat. I mean, some people will pay just to have the experience just so they can go eat in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the
You hear what I'm saying? Like, there's
there is money to be made, Disney. There is money to be
so much
made.
money to be made.
Okay, now that we've gone off on our tangent.
Bringing it back to
Bringing
Josh
it
tomorrow.
back, bringing it back. Okay,
So
so tell us, why was Josh ultimately chosen? And Josh, if Josh DeMario decides to listen to this podcast, remember it's Amanda at Once Upon a Marathon. She has lots of ideas for you.
don't need any credit. I just want to see it happen.
Yes.
I just want to see it happen. I also want passes to go. So like that is part of the deal here.
Yes,
Just like let them
please.
show up in
I
my
put
house.
me in the media invite list. Thank you.
I so I just think honestly it's hard to overcome his level of experience and expertise. I think he would have been a strong contender the first go around if it wasn't for the fact Chapek was his boss and you can't skip over the boss and hire him. That would, you know what I mean? And I also think that he showed a lot of leadership, one underneath Chapek in all of those turbulent times. Then Chapek gone, he obviously worked well with Iger, so he was able to handle that middle ground there and then work again with Iger. He also, I don't have anything to back this up, but I feel like both Dana and Josh were tested. I feel like they had to come and say, give us your best shot. You got to win it. What do you do? And I think that in those proposals, Josh wanted a new park. And I think that part of his pitch was I would go here. This is how I'd do it. This is the deal I'd put on the table. This is the reasons why. And Iger had commented that years ago they had considered and it just got shelved and it was never really a thing. And that the new park came together in like 12 months. Like that deal happened lightning fast. I think that Josh was a driver of it. It's interesting to me because I think it was something from a test. If I were like putting myself in the board seats, right? Come to me with an idea that is so good that Disney should do it regardless of whether or not you're CEO.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
And there's very little skin in the game on this. Like I know they announced the dealership and they've moved forward with it,
Yeah.
but like nothing's broken ground,
No.
things
It's
like
in a
that.
planning state. It could very much not happen, still.
Or if Josh didn't get selected, the new person could come in and make it their own. They could pivot and handle it in another direction.
Yeah.
But I think that was his
That was
big
his
swing.
test, and then he made it. And then unfortunately, I feel like Dana's test was the Jimmy Kimmel thing, and she
Yeah.
I remember
I feel
you
like
telling me before it was even known, you were like, "I think Dana made that call." And I was like,
I
"You
did. I
do?"
was messaged. I was
And
like, I
then
think
yeah,
call.
and then literally, like, 2 months later, it comes out that she made that call. You were right on the money.
I don't think it was an intentional test. I think Dana probably had to come to something to the table. I don't
Yeah,
know what it was. I don't
yeah,
know if she had her own version of a park, but maybe it was
yeah,
in a different portion of the world, or if she saw a different vision for IP, or
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. But I do think that when the Jimmy Kimmel stuff happened, my suspicions at the time, which then later kind of got corroborated as stuff came out down the road, was it's very hot, it's a very political moment. The FCC, you know how I said the government's regulated? The FCC was saying we'll have to relook at that license. That's billions in dollars of revenue that Disney was on potentially going to lose overnight if it got to that point. It's never really happened. I don't think the FCC has ever really pulled a license like that. Like it would be unprecedented, but also
we're in unprecedented times.
right. So and like just it was a podcast and it was doubling down and then all this other stuff. It like just so much. And I think to Dana's point, her response in the room was we have to pump the brakes. Any decision we make is going to be a bad decision because it's happening in the context of all of this chaos. Let's pump the brakes, give it a couple days, come back, and whatever we come back, we have a unified plan of action, and this is what we're going to do. And because they were very clear to say at first, Iger's in the room. It was made by executive decision makers, But I think that Dana would have had a very strong argument to say, listen, if you're really considering for CEO, this is the kind of stuff that a CEO has to deal with. You need to give me a chance to call the shots on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And again, this is all my speculation, but I think that that's how it played out. I think that then, and it's interesting to me too, because Jimmy Kimmel came out later on his own saying that Dana's the one that got him through it, that she was an incredible executive, that he was grateful she was on his side, and that there not only is there no ill will, but nobody else could have done it, and he thinks she should be the CEO. Didn't It was very clear he didn't want that experience to hinder her
Her opportunity.
because he saw it as actually a great example of her leadership.
Yeah.
And he was one of the few people in the room.
Yeah.
So
So he
I
well,
don't
and
like,
I bet she did make the right choice at the time. I just think Disney people are so used to having, like, hands-on knowledge or, like, a statement being made, you know? But should she have come out and been like, "Hey, guys, we're gonna pump the brakes for a second because we need to assess things. We'll be back in a moment." No, she would not have.
no.
But
It's also hard too because I don't know that like other late show talk like other cancellations had happened
yeah.
without that First Amendment, first rights,
Yes.
backlash, national conversation
Yes.
coming with it. So I think there was a lot of factors at play. So yeah, I think that again, if she had been at Disney for 10, 15 years and had more exposure to other divisions, I think
It would have been different.
could have been a different conversation. I do think they see her as very vital to the future. I think that's one of the reasons she made it to the final round.
Yeah.
She's also paid more than Josh Tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
she is.
in base salary, I
Yeah.
think Josh's is like 2.5 and hers is 3.5 million. He has more stock options
Yeah.
than her.
But
But I think that that's
that
an
says something.
indicator to the world that like they see the future of the storytelling as her leading
She is
it and that
she's
she's
valued.
very valued and they want her to stick around.
Yeah. And didn't they give her I don't know if Eisner had this person. I feel like he did, but didn't they create like a new position for her? So now it's almost like Walton Roy again and Eisner and
They
his guy
made
again. Like everyone had like a pair.
yeah,
What's
I
it
have to look
called? Do you want to look it up?
yeah, let me look it up.
Because she has a new position.
So it was so she's president and chief creative officer. The
Okay.
chief creative officer, I think, is a brand new thing. Like
Thing.
there's never been
Okay.
a chief creative officer. And every company has their C suite, but when you think of it, you have the chief executive officer, the CEO. You
Yeah.
usually have a CFO, which is your finance person,
Yeah.
chief finance officer. Other common ones are like COO, operations, or CMO is your marketing, the
Yeah.
person, not every company does that. Sometimes it's folded into other
Things.
divisions,
But
but they made the chief creative officer that's net new.
yeah.
They also made her president of the Walt Disney Company. And I went and looked it up because I remember being surprised by it. But I always thought Walt himself was the CEO of Disney.
No.
He was president.
Yes.
His brother was the
The CEO.
CEO.
Roy was the numbers guy, and he was the financial one that actually kept the company afloat, and he was always CEO. So can
And
you
then I
imagine if
think,
Walt was CEO, there would be no Walt Disney.
ooh, no.
There would be no Walt Disney. That man knew how to lose money so fast. So
And then what I do find interesting, and I think this is what you were alluding to with Frank Wells. Frank Wells was president of the Walt Disney Company
okay,
and held a C-suite position, but he was the chief operating officer. So he
okay,
was president and chief operating. She is president and chief
She
creative, and
okay,
chief
so
creative
that
is the net.
yeah, like, I feel like it was like a duo, like, all these duos seem to do really well, and even
Yeah,
I feel like Iger or DeMario, especially the second time around Iger was here, it almost felt like a big brother, little brother thing,
yeah.
you
It's
know?
interesting because like Iger very clearly has a professional friendship with Dana. They'll go to conferences and give talks together and things like that. I think you see Josh a little bit less than that, but I also think part of that is just Iger's more connected to Hollywood and she is the Hollywood person.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
managing talent,
yeah,
all of that stuff. I think that is also Iger's background. He came from ABC and then Disney
oh,
got acquired by it. Like
yeah,
he had to learn the parks. His
okay.
background is in the
It's
entertainment.
entertainment. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. That's interesting too because I didn't know that at all. So,
Mhm.
okay, well our Josh officially by the time people listen to this on Tuesday, he will be taking over the next day officially.
Yes, at the annual shareholders call, which I am very excited to see how that call's gonna go because
I
he's gonna lead it and he's gonna have to speak, and there's usually a Q&A portion too, so I'm like, "What kind of questions is he gonna answer?" Like, I
okay,
think
make
it'll
sure you
be
check out Amanda's stories next week.
oh, I'll be sat and listening. It's interesting to me because it's going to be the first time that he publicly addresses the company, one CEO, but even since, like, he's made statements
Yeah.
since the announcement, but this is the first time he will be on a live call the public can dial into. And like, it's going to be broadcast, right? So this is his first, what I consider is like the first moment of his CEO tenureship. Also happening at the exact same time is several of the people he's moving into position, that's when it starts for them too. So he's kind of gearing up and putting in who he wants because obviously he vacated a seat, as did Dana in some ways. So he's kind of putting in his various leaders,
How do you
making the moves there.
feel about any moves he's made so far? Do we know much?
So things I would consider good signs. One is it was announced that Traditions is coming back or being expanded, which is the onboarding program, right, for the
For the
employees where
employees.
they're brought into the Disney thing.
Every
I think
single
under
person who
Chapek,
steps foot as a cast member, whether it's DCP or anything, or marketing director, goes through Traditions. That is, you cannot work in any capacity at Disney without going through Traditions. And I have a friend who was a cast member 30 years ago as friends with Cinderella, and she has come back as friends with Fairy Godmother, and she just went through Traditions again.
love it. This is an area I don't know a ton about, but I
Yeah,
was reading an
it's
article that Chapek had changed Traditions, and I don't know if he shortened it or something happened to it in
yeah,
that era. Josh, or I say Josh, but it was announced in the last couple days, so I'm just
yeah,
attributing it.
to
But
him.
they're either re-expanding it or redoing something with it. And anytime I think you're investing in employee education or onboarding, I feel like is a good sign. I'm curious. I also leaked, I think the Wrap just did an article that the villains thing is going to get a glow up. Like he had announced there's going to be a villains park, obviously, but it was also leaked big expose article that what was originally planned, Josh walked in and was like, forget that, go bigger. Like,
Go
you know,
big, please.
go big, make it
Go
happen.
big.
I believe that there was probably approvals put in place and he wanted Villains Land and that was going to happen no matter what. But I imagine that there was a lot of, we all know there's going to be a new CEO. So we're not going to commit to anything beyond a certain point until the new CEO comes in and that'll be the new CEO's decision. Because it could have been that had it been Dana or somebody else, they could be like, you know what, that version of Villains Land is fine. But it does seem as if Josh came in as like, now that I'm in charge, we will be doing more with this.
Sky is the
I
limit. Budget is
believe that this,
second. Those are the words I
oh,
like to hear when we're talking about
I
the park.
know.
Budget is
Um,
second.
and I'm curious. I'm excited to see what they put into it. Like, I think it's going to be successful. I think villains have always been underrepresented. I don't think that, I don't know if it's just like a shift in culture, but like the villains are really loved.
I mean,
A lot there.
I had a post that went viral because for some reason, I mean, I'm not surprised. My youngest daughter is a Slytherin. We'll see if she
Mm.
actually stays. Not that Slytherins are bad rap. I don't. They get a bad rap, but Slytherins are fine. I test Slytherin too sometimes, but she is the slightly might be Voldemort Slytherin if we don't nurture that piece out of her. And we were at Disneyland, and this girl was, like, 3, and she saw Cruella, and she just happened to be wearing, like, a Mickey spotted dress, so she was white with black Mickeys all over it, and she, like, was like, "Cruella," and ran up to her and was hugging and loving on her, and Cruella was so funny because obviously she's a villain, so she's trying to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Lord," but my daughter was just like, "The villains is where I live," and so
This is what I like.
yeah, and the more villains at Mickey's Not So Scary this year, my girls were like, "We have to see Maleficent, we have to see the Evil Queen," and these are littles. I mean, my youngest is still only 5. So,
I also feel like there's gonna be another. We haven't had a good villain in a long time. I
yeah.
feel like the new age of Disney is all redeemed villains. Like they were bad, but they're also nuanced and layered, and they have a redemption arc. And I'm like, just give me Scar. I want a
Yeah,
good villain story, and I want
I want the trauma. Like, we need a
like,
little trauma.
and it's just like they have the best songs. They and you can
Yeah.
even do like go the snarky route. Hades is great. Hades is
Yes.
great.
Hades is
He just
great.
wants to rule
Yes.
Olympus.
Yes.
Like, I can
We
get that.
haven't had a really good villain in a while, so I am very excited, for Villains Land, especially now that it'll be redone. I mean, that means it's gonna probably be delayed, but I'd rather have delayed and something spectacular than not, especially with we haven't done Epic yet, but with the twins, I'm waiting. We went to Universal Hollywood, so we've experienced Super Nintendo World just without
Mhm.
the Yoshi ride, because that's the one thing that's missing there. We were there for 6 hours because when you have little kids, they want to hit every single coin box and do every single challenge. And I was like, if we spent 6 hours in one land, that's not even the most
Yep.
impressive, and we are obsessed with How to Train Your Dragon, and we
Love
also
how to
are a
train
Harry Potter family. So now I'm trying to figure out, well, the twins are 11 this year. I'm gonna do a whole thing next week on their sorting,
I
because
love it.
I am shocked at my kids because 'cause I'm definitely a Hufflepuff. Sometimes I pet Slytherin, but I am a Hufflepuff and so is my husband, and we have Ravenclaw children and 1 Slytherin. We'll see what she actually is when she's 11, because 'cause I'm like, "You can't take this before you're 11." But she did do the test. I read it to her, and she came out Slytherin by, like, 70%. So,
Mm.
we'll see if that changes at 11, but one of my kids was so devastated that they were Ravenclaw because they wanted to be Hufflepuff. He took 2 more tests, and they both came back Ravenclaw.
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
like, "You're a Ravenclaw." So,
You
but the
know?
one thing I hear from people, and you've done Epic and you did it, like, spectacularly, but my friends who've been going with kids this year, they're like, "This is not Disney." And they're like,
No.
"It's amazing." They're like, "It looks visually stunning." They're like, "It's amazing." But they miss the Disney magic. So I'm like, if Disney can be visually stunning, like the way Epic is with their Disney magic, unstoppable.
So my impressions of Epic is, 1, they came for the king and they didn't necessarily miss. They definitely
It's
landed
amazing.
something
Yeah.
there. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. I think they have done something really cool in creating original IP with the
Yeah.
celestial theming and the
Yeah.
portals and the idea that you're portaling into these different areas. I think that was very, very creative. I think the parts that are missing for me is, like, 1, it only has, like, 12 rides. It's
It's
not.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it has a ton in terms of rides. It doesn't have a lot of live entertainment, and there's these massive expansive walkways so it can fit crowds, but because there's not live entertainment, it feels a little like something should be happening. I need to be more immersed into this magical land. I see it, I don't necessarily feel it yet. It's different once you get into the specific portals, like Darkmoor has Igor walking around, but, like, when you're in that middle celestial part, like, they need a parade. They
Or
need,
something.
like,
Yeah.
steampunk people doing juggling or,
Yeah.
like, cool vibes to
Yeah.
match, like, the Star Wars racers. They don't have that yet. I also like, it's not a park for young kids because the rides all have high height requirements and, like, things like
Which
that.
is, like,
So,
the unfortunate thing. I mean, that's part of the reason we actually were Universal Park pass holders for 2 years, and we get because they had such a great military rate, and,
yeah.
but we stopped going because, I mean, my 2nd child just hit 52 inches.
Yeah.
So, like, when you have kids that are like, we were wasting our time, and they kept getting rid of the kid areas. Yes, they've brought, like, a little DreamWorks area now, but it's still not enough to justify a whole trip. For us, it's still definitely an add-on. Now, with the twins turning 11, we're going to mimic going to Hogwarts. So, we're going to be leaning more into, like, first, we're going to go get their robes and then do their wands because we're acting like we're going to like so because we're turning it into like the movie for them. Yes, we
Mhm.
spend 2 days doing that because we're gonna eat at every single location and we're gonna go see all the shows as if they were going to Hogwarts. That's totally different than actually experiencing the park. you know?
Right.
But
And you're the one
otherwise,
coordinating and doing all of that to bring
yeah,
that layer of
yeah,
magic.
Universal
You are
didn't
the
have,
pixie
like,
dust here.
a Hogwarts experience that, like, I'll make him go to the night bus and be like, "Okay, this is what you're gonna have to ride to go," like, but you're not gonna create a regular person who is not like a theme park person is not thinking, "I'm gonna create a Hogwarts experience for my kids at this expense." They're like, "If I'm gonna pay for these tickets, like, we're gonna get on the rides," you know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure. I think it's gonna put pressure on Disney for sure.
yeah,
Because people are gonna take a day at Disney and go over to Epic. It's only like a 20-minute drive. They're
yeah,
gonna take an Uber, they're gonna drive over there, they're
yeah,
gonna spend a day of their vacation at Epic.
yeah,
But I also think it really does raise the bar on expectations for food quality because the food there was amazing,
yeah,
as well as ride quality. Rides were all like the e-ticket. You're like,
yeah.
oh wow.
These are
There
amazing
were
rides.
there are moments in the rides where it's like I feel the way I did when I rode Rise of the Resistance the first time
Really?
or Guardians for the first time. You're like, this is that level, different style, but you're like, this is
That
that
level.
kind of like
Yeah.
wow moment in the ride.
But
Now
you're
it's
having that on multiple rides, though, in one park.
Battle of the Ministry was really cool. It's the most expensive ride in the world.
Yeah. Crazy.
And the queue holds something like 3,000 people indoors. The Monsters Unchained, the technology wasn't necessarily crazy because it's very similar to the ride in the Hogwarts Castle Forbidden Forest. You're in like a chair that's moving around, but the immersive and the theming, like they created an entire story about Victoria Frankenstein, the great granddaughter, and she has this castle and there's vampires that live underneath, and she's going to go into the catacombs because she needs to like prove that you can control a monster because this
Yeah.
was her family's downfall, and because they're vampires, that always draws the werewolves, which is why the werewolves are over by the burning tavern with the werewolf ride. Like the level of connected
Detail.
details
Yeah.
are very cool. And then when you're on the ride, like my favorite part is like you round this corner and Phantom of the Opera is playing, like Phantom of the Opera, but it's a real organ with fire coming out and a guy just like pounding the keys, and it's right there in your face and you feel the heat.
It's amazing.
And I'm like, that was cool. That was very
That
I'm
was
not a horror person. I don't do scary, but
yeah.
that was cool. Like
Okay.
I liked that part. How to Train Your Dragon, the whole land and
Burke
area, you're just
was
like, I could just
amazing.
stick around Berg all day. Like
Oh,
it's lots of fun.
yeah.
Not a lot of shade. I went in July. I would,
Oh,
you know.
yes.
And then the other thing is like you could tell the park was built for the night. There's so much that illuminates and glows and is better at the night. But because I went in July, the sun didn't set
Oh, okay.
until like 9:30, but the park closed at 10. So we only got like a little bit of dusk and then we were out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because they do
go
close
at night. Go at
decent.
night.
See, okay, so Disney has like they need to deliver on the visual stimulation. Because they'll
Yeah.
deliver on the magic. I don't doubt I mean, Disney always delivers, I feel like, on the magic, but it needs to feel like, "Okay, this looks amazing," I feel like. I feel like
And you
that's
know,
the pressure Universal has given them.
it's also like Universal built out all of Epic, so there's a certain amount of it where you're just impressed by everything that's new. It's not
Yeah,
just the Celestial Land, it's also all of these portals and all of these things, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is truly epic,"
yeah,
right? Hence the Disney is we'll create a Toy Story Land, which is a small section of the park with like 2 rides, and it's a vignette.
yeah,
It's like a, you can go see this.
yeah, yeah,
And Star Wars was a bigger expansion, but it's
yeah,
still 2 rides, Smuggler's Run, and like
and yeah, Rise of the Resistance,
there's some
yeah,
experiences. And it's just like you don't have you don't feel ever fully immersed in something. You just get these little vignettes of experiences. And I think Villains Land is the first time we're saying we're going to do an entire land, build it all out. It's not going to be like one section. Like there's parts of Toy Story Land where like you move a building and you could see the beginning and ending of it in one shot, like it's not that long of an area. So I think that Villains has the potential to, similarly to Epic, be more of a I can wander around in here for a while.
and this I could spend my day in Villains Land, kind of like a fantasy. Because I remember when New Fantasyland opened, and I for the first time, I was like, "Oh, we could stay in Fantasyland, like, all day," especially when the kids were little, because it finally was, like, big enough to feel like there was enough to do just in Fantasyland for half a day, and then we could move somewhere else if we wanted to. Because when they're little, you're in Fantasyland. When they start getting older, you're in Tomorrowland and Frontierland and Adventureland. But I do remember, like, I remember Beast Castle whenever it was quick service, and we were like, well, this is so nice to be able to have a quick service because, and then when they added Cinderella's Royal Table, because, that also was a newer thing. And we were like, this is amazing. Like Fantasyland feels like a full land. And that did not happen until 2000. I think it was like around 17. I think it was actually
Yeah.
18 the first time we went back, and we were like, "Okay, this is like a complete land because everything was done, everything was open and operating, the
Yep.
kinks had been worked out, and you were like, "This is amazing." So I'm hoping Villains Land feels like that, and I will be at the first night of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party when that land opens.
You're like, I'm ready to
I am
go. I'm
ready.
ready to
You will
go.
fight me for a ticket. I will be ready to go.
I'm hoping that they're gonna do a dining something that has the
Oh, me
villains.
too.
Or like Beauty and Beast Castle, I missed the quick service, but like one of the amazing things is you felt immersed in it. You're like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I'm in Beast's castle,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Cinderella's table, very similar. Plus, you get to meet the characters.
yes.
I want to be in somebody's villain's land.
Land, yes. I
Like
100 agree.
I want to be able to see the villains in a way that I can like go into a dining
Yeah,
or feel like I'm in their space somehow.
yes.
There's talk that one of the rumors is that there's going to be a water ride. And they say it'll be themed after Maleficent, and I'm like, that just doesn't
Doesn't
match to me,
match.
like her
Doesn't
whole
make
vibe.
sense for Maleficent to be water.
I do think Maleficent will be prominently featured. She was in
Sure.
that blue sky artwork. You could definitely
Yeah.
see the Maleficent vibes, and she is like the OG villain.
Yeah,
But
and I
I
do think that Hollywood Studios show is tied to because in my head, this is my made up head. The villain show is because we have to start training villains if we're gonna have them actively in the park. And my
yeah,
hope is, like, that goes over to Villains Land too,
yep,
and then they bring the Muppets 3D back and put it in that corner, and then now you have, like, a whole
yep.
Muppets courtyard there. But who's in that show? Maleficent, Hook, and
I
Cruella.
haven't seen I haven't seen it.
Well, it's Maleficent, Hook, and Cruella, which are popular villains for Dylan.
The water ride is rumored to be like the Pirates ride in Shanghai, which has like the really
Oh,
cool boats and the immersive
yes.
stuff, and that would be porting that tech over, right?
Okay.
Give me River Styx. Hades, there's a whole river as part of the IP.
So why wouldn't it be Hades?
Right? I feel and it's indoors and it should be dark, and I think you could make it fun because he's
Yeah,
sarcastic and humorous, and it would be something that you could have lap
do
children
it.
in potentially.
Yes,
You could also make it a joke, like, all the villains, because they kinda get off in their storylines, they go
yes,
hang out in the underworld with Hades, and they,
yes.
like you
Oh
know?
my gosh,
And you could make
yes.
jokes about it, and you're, like, going through or you could even have a storyline where, like, Hades is, like whenever the villains are really annoyed and frustrated, like they're out, like their escape is they go hang out
Go
in
hang
the
out in the
underworld because they
underworld.
can have someone to vent to. And like you could have like this, and each different like room or scene
Yes.
could be like Corella interfering with Hades. Like, can you imagine if Corella went after like his dog?
That would be amazing. Amanda, have you ever thought about becoming a Disney Imagineer?
I'm very good with the dreaming.
I
I'm more like
feel
wellness.
I feel like that doesn't have to be something you wait for later. I feel like that's something you could do now.
Yeah,
Is go
listen,
into Disney Imagineering and be a creative and work in storyboard and figure out rides and parks and entertainment because I'm just throwing it out there for you.
I'm just saying, you could do the underworld with Hades and Villains Land. You could bring in some Mando for Star Wars
I
Land.
mean,
You could
I just feel like you've missed your calling. In whatever field you're working in right now, I feel like you have missed, the calling. I feel like Disney needs you at this point. So, because yeah, I think that that is the funniest and the kids would love it. They would love it, and I feel like Hades is such a big costume that it will be hard to find the height requirement that is needed for Hades because he's in the Pluto category, which is like you have to be 5'9" and taller, to be
yeah.
friends with those characters. So being able to have animatronic Hades in a ride and do all that stuff, and then still only bring Hades out for like specialty things eliminates the need of having another tall person to play Hades on a regular basis in Villains Land and still have his presence as one of like the most beloved villains.
Right. And you could have a whole like there's just so many things you could do with it and it makes so much sense to me. So I'm hoping that the reporting I do believe that Josh Tomorrow probably now that he knows that he's CEO is expanding upon this idea. I think that's probably real. I'm hoping that the reporting, like the whole pull the lever Kronk roller coaster, like it's funny and that's a gag, but I just don't think that among the younger kids that there's enough love for that villain to put a whole
No.
attraction and
A
ride
lot of
for
them
it.
don't know. You gotta really have a
And
Disney
Bruce is cool.
parent that's pushing
Yeah,
that,
Bruce.
and people won't get the joke. Where, like, if even if kids don't know who Hades is, they'll still get a ride
The
concept like
joke.
that. Yeah, they'll still because they'll think like, "Oh, we're going down below, and all the bad guys come down below." Like, that clicks without understanding the IP.
And you could have a whole joke like, we're all mortals. We're not supposed to be in the underworld, but we
Yeah.
accidentally got let in because the villains left the door open or something.
Yes.
And then
Oh my gosh!
and they've got to get us out because we can't actually go into River Styx. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole, like, you could play with it and you could do so much with it. And it wouldn't even, like, it would allow you to bring in other characters potentially as well into the queue or different aspects of it.
Mm,
Even if you just kept it straight to Hades and had
yeah.
a, like, what do you mean you're doing here? And he's
Yeah.
like blowing his pain and panic could have screwed up. They could have left the door open and you could keep it just to that
My god.
IP.
Well, I just thought about something too. I'm actually wrong. The kids do know Hades, and but you know why it reminded me when you said, "What do you mean? What are you doing here?" Because of Descendants. Because Hades and it had so they would totally. Oh my gosh,
I think you could also like
Amanda
bring in
needs a job. She needs to switch her
into
job.
villains.
That is amazing.
Yeah. I also think that Ursula should have, like, a sushi spot somewhere in the back there because 'cause she's got some, like, aggression to work out.
She does. She does. Well, and in the Descendants movie, she is, like, so mean to her daughter, and it's at a restaurant. Like, I kid you not. They own a restaurant in Descendants, and Uliana, like, it's her daughter, and you hear her mom being, like, so mean to her in the front, so nail on the head for
There
that
you go.
too.
There you
So,
go.
okay, I mean, Josh tomorrow has a lot he needs to call you, but I will say I think we're excited. We're all
Yeah.
excited for him. We'll just see what the next few years looks like. I feel like he has a lot of new things that could be on his plate in his tenure.
I think he has a lot of new things. I think the board and Iger have done a very good job of setting him up for success. They have cleared the way quite a bit. I mean, there's certain things you can't control, obviously, like, hopefully, we'll have another pandemic or another
Oh gosh, please,
thing like
please.
that.
Yeah,
But I think he's there's a lot, I think, of confidence in the selection.
yeah,
Even if you're somebody who is kind of so-so on Josh because you feel like a lot of the things you don't like about the parks and the expenses are his fault, I think there's a lot of confidence that this was done with consideration and it was done intentionally, and that in theory, there should be less chaos and a lot more of a smoother transition, a smoother runway. I also think that Dana sticking around, I have high hopes for the entertainment side with that. And I think it has the potential. There's a
yeah,
lot of potential. I'm
yeah.
excited to see it.
Yeah,
So
me too. And that's you did bring up the parks thing like that. At the end of the day, Disney's still a business, and he was president of the parks when we got things like Lightning Lane and things that we have to pay for now. And it's not like those things were taken away. So those are realities. I think that that's the criticism I've seen online from people who are trying to be like, don't forget, Josh is the one who's made it more expensive for all of us.
that's hard for me. I just don't think there's enough evidence to say it's him.
It's directly him.
Straight up.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
I think that he came in under Chapek, who has to squeeze every penny out of it. He has this $1 billion losses happening on the streaming side, and the only thing that can keep stuff afloat is the park side of the house. And in addition to kind of using the park to buffer everything, you have this pandemic that's putting this macro
Yeah.
pressure on it, right?
Yeah.
Economic pressure. Josh had a lot he had to do, and he also had a lot of probably push from Chapek himself saying, this let's charge for the lightning. Like, where can we get
Where
the
can
money?
we
Where
get
can we
some
get the
money
money?
out of? And it's a big
Then
money
by the
maker now.
It is. And then by the time that he's exiting, I think that there's so many people are like, just give me the old lightning lane back. And I'm like, I agree with the idea and the principle. Just give me the old thing. I will even pay for it. It was just a better system. But the reality is, so much development and code and infrastructure has changed over, databases have migrated, that there is no undo button. It's going to cost a lot amount of money, a large amount of project management and resources and stuff like that. And I just think it wasn't the priority, because why would you make it a priority when you still need the money off of it and you have all these other bigger problems? I would be very interested to see where we are like 5 years from
I
now. I
know.
do think lightning lanes will evolve.
Yeah.
I think that the app will evolve. I'm curious how, like, in some ways, Josh is kind of the guy that brings stuff back. Like, he's the one that kind of snuck in Happily Ever After coming back after, remember when that got,
Debacle
you know?
happened.
Hmm. And then he was, let's be honest, if he brings back Magical Express, that will buy him a lot of goodwill.
I
So,
mean, honestly, I don't care about anything else. But if he brought back Magical Express, and let me, this is my honest reason why. Disney, like once you step on property, your blood pressure goes down because you're like in the magic. But for my kids, especially, and maybe I'm a little bit more nostalgic to you because I was a really young mom when this was happening. Because in 2019, on our last trip to on the Magical Express, I had a 5-year-old and two 3-year-olds. The excitement of them getting on that bus with Mickey on the side and the Mickey shows playing on the TV screens, you felt like the magic started right from the airport.
at the airport, it
And
was an incredible customer
yeah,
experience for sure.
and for
And it didn't
me,
even wasn't even the airport. It was when you got the magic bands in the
in the
mail.
mail,
Like, it
yes.
was,
It literally is like just everything felt like magic, and now the airport feels like this weird break in the magic. Does that make sense? Like, I
yeah.
feel it's like
Yeah.
you get the magic bands at home, you get all the mailers at home. Like, I just got my Disney Cruise Line, tags, and it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it feels like it's coming, it's coming." And then you get to the airport and you're like, "Okay, hold on, let's get the bags," and, like, it's coming, but we gotta drive for 25 minutes, and then you're, like, at the hotel, where it just was, like, so seamless. And I mean, I'm like, "Don't change anything else," but if you could bring back that one thing, I just love the feeling and the excitement it caused right from the airport. I just
Yeah.
love it.
I I think it's one of the biggest things people
Yeah.
miss because people have found workarounds for
Yeah.
the lightning lane. There's
Yes.
the standby
Paper,
skipper, there's
white
the like,
magic. Yeah.
they've figured out solutions to
Yeah.
everything else.
But that
There's no, yeah.
it's a bane, and, like, I still have, like, issues with it. I just have relegated myself to Uber always, or we rent a car because I just don't even want the trouble. And then when I liked, forgot Sunshine Flyer for a while, and then it was bought by Mears, and so I was just like, we'll just rent a car. I don't. So, yeah, if he's
We'll
listening,
see what happens.
hopefully this
So
podcast gets sent to the right ears.
I will say the guy he's putting in charge of the parks now, like
Yeah.
all the parks, and because
Yeah.
he's now Josh is promoted, so he had to put
Yeah.
somebody else in. The person that he put in, I was just starting to read up on him. He's been at Disney for a long time,
Okay.
and his expertise is kind of experiences. So he's part of the Disneyland Cruise expansion and all
Oh.
of that. Yeah. So he prior to Disney, there was a gap where he did a lot with like luxury hotels and experiences and like I think he has a good mindset or history. He's Disney grown, he's been there for a while.
Okay.
He's been in different divisions that are all experience focused and experience based. He was, I think, the head of the Disneyland park, and now he's
Okay.
being put over
Promoted.
everything.
Okay.
So he kind of has like he has a track record of how do you take this physical thing, the cruise ship, the park, the boat, the hotel, and how do you make that an experience
Okay. Mm.
in a good way. So
Okay.
I'm high hopes for him,
Hopeful.
fingers crossed.
Hopeful.
See, yeah,
Okay, well, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm excited. I'm hopeful. I'm
I am
hopeful.
too.
I am hopeful for the first time in a while with Disney, like, because you get nervous with Bob leaving again, but it's time. That man, he's looking tired.
It's
He's looking tired. He's 15
he's
years
ready.
overdue, and he is so ready. That's why he's like, "Okay, March, we got it."
It is interesting because I think there was a very much like when we announce him, that's really it. Like we announced the new guy.
He
I'm
is.
gonna give my goodbye tour, and then like
He's like,
I'm
"I'm out of here. I'm out of here. You're never gonna see me again." No, he's done well. We appreciate the Iger era and the Re era having to, correct that. So, oh, Amanda, this was so good. Like, people are gonna be so excited here. This I enjoy your take. I will be watching the stories. So literally this comes out on Tuesday and the call will be Wednesday.
yep,
And
it'll be Wednesday.
I will be living in your stories as we hear the stuff in the calls. And I appreciate your deep dives. It's just, it's amazing. So tell everyone again where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram at Once Upon a Marathon. and website is the same name,
Yeah,
onceupon-a-marathon.com.
very easy. So, and as always, we're so grateful. I know I can hear the people who listen to this podcast. They're going to be sending me messages being like, "This was the best one ever," because they love the long podcast. So, I
I can yap forever. I can
they
talk Disney literally
literally
forever.
love it, and everything you said was interesting. And I, in 5 years when you have a new job at Disney Imagineering because of this podcast, just remember me at a media event. Thank you, because the ideas are too good. But thank you so much for being on. And as always, we know you can listen to a million Disney podcasts out there. So we're always grateful for the time you spend here. So have a magical rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching, and we will see you real soon.